to attack on every 33-second interval, so you want to make sure that you catch her here. While you're moving your cursor to get to the right vent, find Mangle and close her off if need be. Now, when moving into the cameras, focus on the bottom left corner of the screen for Rockstar Bonnie's guitar. Remember that he's permanent, so if you miss the guitar on any cycle, you won't have enough time to recover and he will jump scare you. If you're on an even cycle, Freddy will be at the left door. I recommend closing the left door immediately as you get to his camera, as we don't want him desyncing from the overall cycle. Now, head up to Toy Freddy's camera and play his game. Do this as fast as possible, since he's usually on the brink of gaming over once you reach him. Now, head over to Funtime Foxy's camera and try to reset the ventilation. You can survive if you miss it here, but it will make the office cycle a lot harder to see. Also, make sure to wait on the camera for about half a second. Remember that Plush Trap here is permanent, so we're gonna have to get rid of him every single cycle. Plush Trap's time is cumulative, so if you watch him for a bit on one cycle, the time that you watched him will save. So at the end of every cycle, we're going to get half of his timer, and at the beginning of the next cycle, we're gonna finish it off. Now, when you drop the cameras, get ready for the entire reason this max mode is ranked so high, the office cycle. As I've said before, the office cycle is far and away the hardest part of Hopless Pursuit, so I'm going to try and break it down as slow as possible. Depending on whether or not you are on an even or odd cycle, you may have to click Me Bird for Rockstar Foxy. Let's assume that this is the hardest office cycle possible, because if you can do this, you can do literally any other office cycle. In this case, you're on an even cycle, so we'll have to grab Me Bird and Bonnet will be spawned while you're in the cameras. This creates what I'm going to call the chaotic combo. When you drop the cameras, all in less than a second, you have to click Helpy, Me Bird, Bonnet, and the Wet Floor Sign, all while avoiding the Night Marionette spawn that overlaps all 4 of these items. While doing this with your mouse hand, you need to press 3 in order to turn on the heater to get rid of Nightmare Chica, as Nightmare Chica will always spawn on Me Bird cycles. Then, after the heater has been on for about a second, press 2 to activate the silent ventilation. Now, once you've moved the Wet Floor Sign, there are 2 general strategies you can use for mouse movement. I like to call them the circle and the wall. The more common of the 2 is the circle, and I've seen this used by most Hopless Pursuit victors. You first want to do the chaotic combo on the left side, then use the flashlight for about a second for the credits. Do this while you're on the left side in case Nightmare Baby is sitting down. Now, move the Wet Floor Sign to the right and follow it with your mouse. Then move it back to the left, flash Nightmare Baby if he's standing up, pay Rockstar Freddy, and select the topmost option for Rockstar Foxy to get 5% power. Then shock Scrap Baby if need be, turn on the power gen and fan with space and 1, then wait until the next Pyrus cycle time and open the cameras. You can kind of see how each item that you have to interact with forms a circle in the office, which is why it's called the circle. The wall is more so just going from left to right and clicking every single threat by changing your vertical position. Out of all of the HP victors, I've only really seen Hopless use this strategy for office cycles. I would often flip between this and the circle method, but ultimately I found the circle method to be more comfortable. If that sounds like a lot on its own, remember, you're constantly being bombarded with door characters and distraction characters during all of this. Honestly, once you've done it so many times, it feels like you can almost stop time when you drop the cameras, just because your brain becomes so conditioned to recognize so many threats so quickly. Thankfully, that is the hardest part of the night, and as long as you know how to do that and camera cycles, you can beat Hopless Pursuit. Though there are a few special cycles that I want to go over. The first is hour changes. The cam cycle at 56 seconds is generally the hardest cycle. Essentially, you're going to open the cameras and go to the music box like normal, but instead of going to the ducks, stay on the music box camera and wind the box up fully. Then, right before the hour changes, change to Funtime Foxy's camera and watch the showtime. Now, we want to go into the ducts as fast as possible after the hour changes, since Happy Frog is practically going to be crawling out of the duct at this point. Now, when you do this, don't stare at the timer and try to time it that way. You'll probably undershoot it. Instead, use Funtime Chica as a visual cue of when to switch. She appears every 10 seconds, so the moment you see her, click to change to the duct system and change the blur and duct around as fast as possible. Now, run through the cameras as fast as you can, since Toy Freddy is going to game over in about 5 seconds. Now, here's what an hour change cycle and office cycle looks like at full speed. The only other kind of special cycles are the plushie cycles. At 1 minute, 3:11, and 5:41, you're going to have to buy the 3 plushies. The only difference here is that you'll have to quickly glance in Cam 2 to see which plushie animatronic it is. Then, after you get toys ready, click on Cam 7 and buy the plushie as fast as you can. If you haven't already, you should definitely memorize the locations of each plushie in Fry's corner so that you don't waste too much time trying to buy them. If you can survive that, you learn pretty much all that you need to know for HP. But trust me, saying that and then actually playing it are two very different things. I hope so far that this video has been a funny one that you guys could laugh at. Unfortunately, the rest of this video won't be like that. I won't lie to you guys, Hopless Pursuit was the worst experience I've ever had playing a video game. Everything people say about Hopless Pursuit is 100% true. It is really that bad. For the rest of this video, I'm going to catalog my HP experience like how I did with the FNAF block video, going day by day. However, the FNAF block of that challenge only took 6 days. Now, you have to think of it. It only took 6 days to do. How long are you going to spend on Hopless Pursuit? Well, instead of days, we're going to pick up the grind in the 4 to 5 days section. I started HP all the way back in December, but at this point I was more so just playing in the background and focusing on other things. I truly experienced it for the first time on stream right that I think deluxe at PC, and honestly, after I played it for the first time, I thought, wow, this sucks, I never want to play this ever again. From that point onward, I was just turned it on and off. And the first wall that I had to break was getting used to the drastically increased amount of keyboard inputs required right after that. Around this time, this was what an average HP run looked like. Coin farming had become so much harder compared to NBC Deluxe, and honestly, it was probably the most demotivating part of the entire night. I'd estimate that around this time, roughly 1 in 10 runs would even get to the first camera cycle and make out of coin farming, and these coin farming deaths really never stopped. Throughout the entire time I spent grinding this challenge, at best, 2 out of 3 runs were still dying at the very beginning of the night. Now, the reason that I found coin farming so challenging has to do with my muscle and keyboard. This is going to become a reoccurring theme in this video, but Threadbare, and especially Nightmare, really messes with my keyboard hand. You see, this is how I would normally coin farm. I pull up the cameras and place my left index finger on the F key for the right vent in order to close it on BB and JJ. Once I pressed F, I would then keep my finger on the F key until I had to reopen the vent. It may look like characters just hit the doors the moment you shut them in UCN from a casual perspective, but in reality, characters actually take 0.5 seconds to leave. They also only have 2 timers, a kill timer and a leave timer, so if you happen to have a door closed and don't fill up the 0.5 second leave timer before the kill timer runs out, the animatronic will just phase through the door and jump scare you anyway. So UCN isn't like literally every other game where they either leave on a movement opportunity or just instantly bonk when the door is shut. So my coin farming muscle memory always told me to keep my finger on the F key in order to reopen the vent 0.5 seconds later. So what happens when in those 0.5 seconds, a character that requires my left index finger spawns? Well, at this point in the grind, my brain would just shit itself and I would die. Hopless Pursuit has a ton of combos like this with your keyboard. Anytime you have to use the flashlight and Fredbear or Ballora on the left shows up, your ring finger is stuck between the Z and A keys. Anytime that you have to close the front vent and use the silent ventilation, your middle finger is stuck between the W and 2 keys. And if literally any of these things happen, your index finger is stuck between the 3, E, D, C, and F keys. This is why characters like OMC and Lolbit are now ranked as some of the hardest characters in the game, despite never receiving any direct buffs. On the rare runs that did get past coin farming, I noticed an immediate problem around the 30-second mark, and that was the L-chip and actors combo. Even though I had rebound Lolbit to Q and E, I still had my L-chip add skip bind as it entered like in the default game. I considered my movement to the enter key on my keyboard pretty fast, but I guess it wasn't fast enough, as whenever a door character spawned right as an out of keyboard, I would usually fall apart, and it's pretty easy to see why. I have a full-size keyboard, so whenever I had to move my hand back from the enter key all the way to W, A, S, and D, it was pretty common for me to misplace my hand and hit the wrong key. And when that door character is someone like Afton, who only gives about 1.1 seconds to react, missing my keyboard hand would usually result in death. So at this point, I finally decided to bite the bullet and rebind L-chip's add skip to left shift. Now I had a keyboard configuration that no matter what animatronic appeared, my hand would never leave the left side of the keyboard, and I had access to all crucial keys at all times. Though it's obviously much better ergonomically to have left shift as your L chip key, man, it was really hard to break that muscle memory for enter. I had played so much vanilla UCN, and up to this point used enter and deluxe, so I was still very used to and every time I saw that ad flash, I had to restrain my arm from going all the way over to the enter key. After about 1.5 days, I had finally managed to comfortable from the Beyond through sheer brute force, and I had even worked my way up to a 1am PB. Though getting a 1am personal best was kind of misleading. For one, the 12am hour is significantly easier than every other hour in both camp cycles and office cycles. For the first 2 cycles, Rockstar Bonnie usually isn't even present, and during office cycles, you don't have to pay Rockstar Freddy and the mini arenas aren't even here yet. And just to get to 1am, it had taken me almost 4 days, and honestly, I thought at this point, I should just do this challenge and video in the background. I'll do some easier challenges for some filler, and slowly but surely work my way up second by second in HP. But it was then that a real life event would change how I thought about pretty much everything. One of my most frequently asked questions on this channel is how I got my name and avatar. For one, I'm not a furry. Here's a chart of how I got to my current profile picture. It spawned off of a Doge meme, but that's not the point here. I want to talk about how I got the name The Bones 5. When I was back in high school, I wanted to enter a competitive Super Smash Bros. Ultimate tournament, and I needed a tag to go by. I wanted something that was cool, simple, and unique, since my previous tag was literally just my real name with some numbers at the end. And while that works for some people, I thought about my loved ones, people that are special to me, and that's when it hit me. My dog's name is Bones, so I'll be The Bones. I needed a number to make it stick, so I chose 5, the number of friends in my longest standing friend group. And that was that. Everyone loved my gamer tag, and a lot of people liked it so much that Bones became my real life nickname. So why am I telling you guys this now? It seemed kind of out of place. Well, in my videos, I like to make them more than just gaming challenge videos. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, you know that I like to get pretty personal with you guys, and talk about the mental and physical challenges that whatever I'm doing gave me, not just playing the game. But I truly wasn't and never could be ready for what was about to happen. On December 23rd of 2024, Bones passed away.
Hey guys, for those who don't know why I'm sitting outside instead of my room, when I cover a bit heavier topics, I like to go here. This is the Tree of Life, if you haven't seen it in the FNAF walk video already. I like to go here so I'm not just like sitting in my room recording. I feel like it's a little dull sometimes. I don't have the motorcycle here like last time because it's too cold to even start it, much less ride it. So we're just sitting on the ground, better than the basement. Bones, more than anything, he was a lover. Like, you could say he'd be a really bad security dog because he just loved everyone. He didn't care who you were, where you came from, what you smelled like. No matter who you were, the second you entered the house, he'd be all over you. I spent my entire like conscious life with Bones. We got him when I was like 4 years old, and I wasn't really, sentient before then. Throughout like my entire life, Bones was always there for me, and he was part of like our entire family. My mom, she'd keep him company when I was at school, my dad was at work. He'd watch YouTube with my dad when we were about to go to sleep, and he helped me grow up. He was there through every stage of my life, really. And when Bones passed, I felt a kind of pain that I really have never felt before. I've never lost anyone close to me before, ever, actually. And I had this, like, almost hollow feeling that I wasn't used to ever feeling before. Bones, he went out with the big one. Like, we had to put him down because he had lost his sight. He had already lost his hearing and was losing his smell. But his physical body would have gone on for probably a few more years. And I was angry because I felt like he was ripped away from me. If his eyes didn't go and his senses didn't go, he'd still be here. I felt like cheating that he had gone in the way that he did. And after that happened, I lost motivation for pretty much like everything in my life. It was rough. But deep down, I still had this one burning desire. I try to be as transparent with you guys in this video because it makes me a lot better. And if I'm going to be completely honest, the real reason that I made this video, or wanted to make this video, was kind of selfish. Since I started YouTube, I've always seen a ton of comments in my section and other people's comment sections comparing me to the other big YouTubers, like whose better, who's more insane, who does the crazier challenges, you know? And I wanted this video to be inarguable evidence that I was like the best challenger. Like I do the hardest thing, right? But after Bones passed away, all of this like internet, social media stuff, talking about who's better at what, like none of it matters at all. It all seems so utterly meaningless, right? I didn't care if it was me, or Chicken Ninja, or Spiff, or whoever the comments were talking about. I was gonna do this challenge for an entirely different reason. I wanted to honor my friends, my brothers, the entire reason this channel exists, my childhood best friend, right? And I wasn't gonna do that through some lame, is it possible to beat this without this, you know, just like every other video. I wanted to do something really, really important and meaningful. And something that really meant something to me and a lot of other people, you know? And this was when I decided I am going to literally put everything I have and I am going to beat Hopless Pursuit so I can immortalize Bones' name in the FNAF community forever. It's not a question anymore.
This challenge had originally started as a background project, one of pride. I wanted to prove that I was the best FNAF challenge YouTuber in terms of skill. But now, that all felt so utterly meaningless. But even though my original goal was gone, my motivation ran deeper than anything I had ever done before. To those of you who wanted to see the true gauntlet or any other video, I'm sorry. In order for me to feel like I had honored Bones properly, it had to be the hardest challenge that I was capable of doing. I had to beat Hopless Pursuit here and now, not for a selfish and prideful reason, but for Bones. Previously, I've been playing Hopless Pursuit on and off, but this was the day that I swore I was going to dedicate everything that I had to completing Hopless Pursuit. From this day forward until I completed HP, I would play for every single day for as long as possible. If you don't know from previous videos, I'm currently a full-time college student studying computer science, but I still had about half of my winter break left over, meaning that I could play significantly more per day than if I was at school. If there was one thing that I did have, it was time. My break ended on January 19th, so I had 28 days to complete Hopless Pursuit. Now starting on December 23rd, my journey truly began. For almost this entire section in these first few days, you'll notice that my usual face cam is now a hand cam instead. And I'll be completely honest with you guys, the days after Bones' passing, I would just break down sometimes. And I didn't really want to see that looking back on those recordings. The face cam would return later, just when I was a bit more emotionally stable. The day of Bones' passing, I had a much different mental state than usual. Usually, I tend to get very annoyed and angry with these kinds of games pretty quickly. But after such a life-altering event, it was so hard to get angry at petty Hopless Pursuit deaths, which was kind of the inspiration for the new Bones redesign for this video. When something like this happens, you can't really feel anything else properly for a while. Almost immediately, I had jumped up from my personal best around 1 AM flat to a 142. Unfortunately, I didn't record a lot of these super early personal bests because I knew that I wasn't gonna fluke the entire night. But from some of the footage history, I can tell that these personal bests were accurate. Christmas Eve and Christmas Day came and went. Both days I spent playing HP with no progress, but this was to be expected. 1 AM in Hopless Pursuit is known as one of the biggest walls in max modes, as 12 AM is kind of a tutorial hour, with some key components missing from canon office cycles. But once you hit 1 AM and get past it, it's just repeating that hour for the rest of the night. Even though I did have a 149 PB, it's worth noting that this PB wasn't exactly perfect. You see, there are 3 key metrics that you always need to keep up throughout any Hopless Pursuit run. These are your power, coins, and cycle time. Power is the most obvious. If you leave a door closed for too long, which trust me is very easy to do, or miss a Meebird on any of the office cycles, you probably won't have enough power to finish the night. We'll talk more about coins later on, but right now I wasn't really too concerned with them as plushies didn't really matter at this point. The first plushie animatronic would kill at 2 AM if I didn't buy their plushie, and I hadn't even gotten there yet. However, the most determining factor in getting a new personal best is your cycle time. Remember that from earlier, Pyrus cycles kinda script out when you should do cam and office cycles and HP. So if you're too slow on a cam or office cycle, you're going to bleed a few seconds and fall off cycle. When this happens, there are a few characters that can punish you for it, namely Toy Freddy, the Duck characters, and Withered Chica and Mangle and Fence. As I played more and more, I began to notice a pattern in my runs. The wall was specifically at the 56 to 111 cycle, the first hour transition. I would almost never get past this specific cycle in the run, and out of the first 4 days of attempts, I only made it there on power pace and without bleeding the cycle time once. I was so panicked once it happened that I ended up messing up the next cycle to a mistake with Phantom Mangle. The reason that this cycle was so problematic was because it was an extremely tight cam cycle, followed by the first proper office cycle of the night. The hardest office cycle in the 12 AM hour is around 35 seconds, as it's the first time that we have to click Meebird and Rockstar Foxy, while also using the heater to deal with Nightmare Chica. But here, we don't have the mini arenas, Bonnet, or Rockstar Freddy active, so there's significantly less to deal with. Now, at 106, we drop the cameras to a full office cycle that will require the circle or wall methods we talked about earlier. But trying to learn these methods on the fly was extremely difficult. Usually, I just ended up going in some random order and trying to click everything on screen, which most of the time resulted in a Nightmare death. And if I didn't, I would bleed tons of time and wouldn't open the cameras anywhere near the 11-second mark. Mentally, this was a huge struggle, because it truly felt like every run that I got to this cycle was just doomed instantly. There was no way to practice for this specific cycle without getting a run that makes it here. And remember, the camera cycle before it is extremely precise. Usually, you're within 1 to 2 seconds of a Toy Freddy game over. At one point, I did consider trying to make some sort of practice mod, like how PXH Ghost did all the way back when I beat Dragon Cat All challenges for the first time. But that felt kind of cheap. If all of the Hopless Pursuit victors before me did it in this way, then I was going to learn this way too. So I kept trying and trying with the mentality that if I could just get through this one cycle, I could get through the night. As December 26th passed, I started to realize something. If I wanted to practice the 105 office cycle more, I needed to get as many runs there as possible, even if it meant not having good coins or good power when I got there. I could worry about coins and power later. For now, I just needed better speed and aim to survive. So I decided to not coin farming as hard at the beginning of the night, as coin farming still made out most of my deaths. This drastically boosted the number of runs that were getting to the cycle of death, and I even had a few runs past it, albeit while bleeding a lot of cycle time. Finally, on day 6, I managed to get a flat 2 AM personal best. Unfortunately, this was off recording, so I can't show you guys, but from memory, I died because I didn't buy the plushie. Since I wasn't really focused on getting past 2 AM, I just didn't do it. So in 6 days, we managed to march from 142 to 2 minutes. If anything, that should tell you how much harder HP is than anything I've done before. For reference, I was already done with FNAF Lock once I hit day 6.
It has been 6 days!
And I was complete garbage at FNAF back then relative to how I am now. Relatively speaking, getting to 2 a.m. on Hopless Pursuit with good power pace is already harder than anything that I had ever done in Banana by online. So yes, that does mean just getting 2 a.m. on Hopless Pursuit is harder than Deluxe NDC, and it's not close. So now, there was nothing left to do but push forward. For the next few days, the progress was still extremely slow. Every time that I would get a new personal best, it would only be a small march forward by a few seconds. And honestly, this was pretty discouraging. If I was progressing at a rate of 8 seconds per day on a good day, there was no way that I was going to beat HP by the 19th. I still wasn't very consistent with the 105 office cycle, but there were some runs that would occasionally get past it. But as I was having a conversation with my mom at dinner about the grind, she brought up a good point. Also, she comments on all my videos, "Love you, Mom, we're doing this for bones." She said that even though I hadn't been improving my main personal best that much, my consistency was still getting better day by day. Slowly but surely, I had more and more runs that were peaking into the 130 to 140 range. The new year came and went, and I had only progressed about 8 seconds overall. But thankfully, my mental state had gotten a bit better since Bones' passing. Before, I had had a lot of trouble just thinking about him, and with how much that I was playing per day, I'm sure that I was getting fatigued due to the lack of sleep. It was looking pretty bad deadline-wise, until January 2nd. I don't know what was different about this day, but when I started up runs, it was like I was playing an entirely different game. I don't know if it was good luck from Bones or what, but in one day, I managed to jump my PB by nearly a full minute. And for the first time, I finally felt a bit of relief in the speed of my progress. It had taken me 11 days to get to 303, meaning that if I kept this pace, I should be able to easily get HP done by the 19th. So now that I had a personal best that was halfway through the night, I was pretty optimistic, and I continued my grind. A recurring concept in almost all forms of media is the yin and yang, the idea of a balance between light and dark. They say that the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. Well, that 303 run must have been a really bright light, because man, I've never had a bigger wall than 3 minutes and 3 seconds on Hopless Pursuit. When I first got my 303 personal best, I finally felt like I had made some decent progress for once. If I could start getting consistent 3 AMs, the rest of the night shouldn't be that bad. But I think I had mentally tricked myself into thinking this 303 was a lot better than it actually was. You see, it's one thing to get a 303. It's an entirely different thing to get a 303 that's on cycle, on power pace, and on coin pace. Essentially, there's a very big gap between a 303 that could potentially win the night, and a 303 where you barely crawled your way to 3 AM. And in this run, I had horrible power of the coins, and I was nearly 5 seconds off cycle. I didn't know this at the time, but that 303 personal best would haunt me for the next 6 days. Now that I knew I was capable of surviving this long into the night, I wanted to ensure that the next time I got to 3 AM, I could keep going as far as possible, which means having good coins, good power, and good cycle time. Now, in the strategy portion, I never really mentioned these, because power and cycle time are both pretty intuitive. To have good power, just make sure you don't miss any knee birds and don't forget any closed doors. It sounds easy enough, but oftentimes I would look at the use of the bar wall and the cams and notice, hey, that's not what the power gen fan and cams look like. Then I'd end up closing and opening every single door to find which one was shut and lose like half my power doing it. It's just one of those keyboard torture things that you have to adjust to. Cycle time is pretty self-explanatory, you just have to be fast. Interestingly though, out of these 3 metrics, the hardest isn't cycle time or power. The hardest is actually coins. In base NDC, you rarely even notice coins as a threat. You just farm like 20 at the beginning, then naturally you'll earn enough throughout the night that you'll always be able to afford plushies. However, in Hopless Pursuit, coins are a lot more strict. Real quick, let's talk about how absurdly